Mr. Jayant Sinha, Minister of State for Civil Aviation, joins us right here on ET Now. And I can't thank you enough for being on this show this evening, sir. Thanks very, very much for sparing time and joining us on ET Now. I must ask you this question that I do believe, and we at ET Now believe, that we need to play a role in building the Indian economy. It doesn't help anyone to have this doomsday scenario. There is no doomsday. The kingdom hasn't arrived. I don't think there is reason to panic. We're certainly not sinking, but yes, things have slowed down. We haven't grown in the last 8 quarters as much as we would have wanted to. We are down to levels of 5.7% in Q1 of this financial year. But there is a sense that the government is in denial about this slowdown, and which is why my first question is, there is no room for such gloom, but there is also room to perhaps go on a war footing. We can't be in denial anymore, and there is a sense that New Delhi is.
We've been on a war footing since May 2014, Supriya, because it is absolutely our responsibility to do whatever we can on behalf of the country and its people. And as I've said in my articles, not just the most recent one, but the articles that I have been writing consistently, we have undertaken very deep, very important structural reforms for the economy that are really building the foundation for a new India going forward. It was required. Remember, the economy that we inherited from the UPA was an economy that was literally in the ICU. Growth had stopped, inflation was through the ceiling, fiscal deficit was in all kinds of trouble. So we had inherited an economy that was in very bad shape. We have fixed that economy and we have laid the foundation for tremendous growth going forward. Now, when you do put in place, major structural changes like GST, demonetization and so on, the economy is going to slow and then it's going to pick up again. And that's really what we're going through right now.
Let's now talk about the substantive parts of this letter written by of the article written by the former finance minister, Mr. Sinha. Specifically, the first point was on private investment. The fact that private investment cycle is nowhere close to turning. It's been 3 years, more than 3 years, that the government has taken charge. Gross fixed capital formation, which is a key metric that indicates private investment, is at a sort of 10-year low probably. And the corporates that we speak to, Kumar Birla, AM Naik, all of them have indicated that the private cycle isn't reviving for 2 years in a row. For how long can the government blame the UPA for the lack of private investment in the economy?
We are not blaming the UPA at all for private investment. In fact, I think, and I have said this many times, Sandeep, I think people are not understanding how investment is happening in the economy right now. And this is in fact the paradigm shift that is happening in the economy. I'll give you an example from aviation. As far as aviation is concerned, our airlines are importing every year somewhere between 100 to 125 planes. That's $3 or $4 billion worth of capital equipment that's coming into India. But all of this is being leased. It's not showing up as investment in the investment numbers. Because such a big structural shift is happening in the economy, that's why the numbers are not catching up and seeing what's going on. We're also taking capital assets and sweating them and utilizing them much more efficiently. That's what Ola and Uber and Amazon and all of the new age companies are doing. Again, the result of that is that we're utilizing our capacity much better. Growth is happening, volumes are going up dramatically, but the investment is not happening because we're using assets in a much more efficient way. These are in fact the indicators of the structural shift that I'm speaking about. If you look at the high frequency indicators, whether you look at automobile sales, scooter sales, aviation, e-commerce, all of the new age industries, the industries that will power growth going forward, the high frequency indicators for these new industries are very, very positive, and they're all using capital equipment much more efficiently and leasing much of it as opposed to buying it. That's why I don't think the numbers that we have really are picking up the structural shift in the economy.
No, I agree with you there, and I think you've tried to explain that even in your article in the Times of India this morning. But I'm going to ask you a question that, and I'm not blaming you for it, I think you've been fairly eloquent in your position, but pockets in your government do blame the UPA for the banking mess that you inherited perhaps, the NPAs, the mounting NPAs. Yes, we've kind of given RBI a lot of autonomy to now do what it has to do with the NPA, but those reasons were perhaps valid in 2015. They were also valid in 2016. But in October of 2017, we can't blame the previous government for the NPA mess or for the banking crisis, because you've had 3 years in office and this should have been solved before. So without, without quoting whatever has been written on the NPA mess, whether it has not been solved imaginatively, I'm just asking you, how soon before we see resolution? Because look at what the courts are doing, even with the whole NCLT and IBC provisions and all of that. We're nowhere close to resolution, are we, sir?
Supriya, there's a difference between political blame game and a diagnostic. I'm not into the political blame game. I'm telling you from a diagnostic point of view, from an analytical point of view, the NPA mess is something that the UPA created. There is no doubt about it. We called it out, we recognized it for what it was worth, and we have taken the necessary steps to fix it. Everyone in the world, Supriya, will tell you that what we've done through the bankruptcy code, what we've done through forcing people into bankruptcy and the resolution process that we have underway, the whole world will tell you that this is indeed the way to fix it, and we are doing that. In parallel, we are recapitalizing the banks. We did that through Indradhanush. We are fixing what we can industry by industry, whether it's in the steel industry, whether it's in the power industry. So if you look at it as a multidimensional problem, we have done and are doing the necessary steps to fix the NPA crisis. So anybody who thinks that we've not done what is necessary doesn't understand the facts, doesn't understand the logic. Where did the problem arise? Not because of us. The problem arose because of the failed policies of the UPA government. That's the diagnostic. That's the reality. Have we taken all the steps necessary to fix it? Yes. But the reality is that any NPA problem crisis takes several years to be rectified. That is what we have seen from Sweden. We've seen that from Japan. We've seen that from the United States. So again, all the necessary steps are being taken. It will take time for this to be worked through the economy, and that's essentially what is going on right now. Very serious, very important steps have been taken, and any credible, objective observer will agree with that.
Okay, we have a lot of ground to cover, so I don't want to spend too much time on each issue. The rural economy, because that's another criticism, another point mentioned in that column in the Indian Express. Rural distress is real, and everyone agrees. I'm sure so do you, Mr. Sinha. Why is it then that elected BJP governments are now pushing for farm loan waiver? It's almost become a political tool. We expected the BJP to not follow these failed policies of the Congress, and you for sure would agree that loan waivers do no good, neither to the farmer nor to the agriculture sector, and definitely not to the economy.
The agricultural situation is something that is very complicated. There are no simple silver bullet type solutions here. Again, it's a multi-dimensional problem. We are attacking it from many different ways, whether it is agricultural infrastructure, whether it is opening up agricultural markets, agricultural credit, insurance, which is what we are providing with Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, irrigation. Every facet of this problem is being worked on. But again, Indian agriculture has been happening for thousands and thousands of years. You're not going to solve the problems of Indian agriculture overnight. We are not expecting to do that. And of course, when in particular we have drought for 2 years, which is what we had in 14 and 15, we have to find some short-term solutions to that, which is what the farm loan waiver through elected governments of course, is being used to deal with those short-term situations that we're dealing with when we have, tremendous drought-like conditions as we had in 14 or 15. So we have to look at those kinds of situations. Any government will be responsive to those. But while we're doing the short-term fixes, we are also doing all the necessary long-term things that are required as far as agriculture is concerned. Again, it's a multi-dimensional, complex problem. And we have to attack it in that very sophisticated way as well.
Yeah, nobody denies it's a complex issue. I don't know if loan waivers is something that you personally support, but I will shift the focus away from this and talk to you about something that was constantly leveled against the UPA. We saw a sort of tax terror during the UPA regime, and that was a charge constantly leveled by the opposition benches. That sort of a tax terror may have gone, that sort of unpredictability may have gone, but today I think, sir, in the name of cracking down on corruption, we have perhaps emboldened the taxman too much. There is too much discretion at the end of this tax pyramid, and which is what is putting a lot of fear in the minds of corporate India. How are you going to assuage that concern?
I reject that, Supriya. The truth of the matter is that in terms of getting people their refunds, in terms of interacting with tax authorities over email and so on, we have streamlined the system, we made it transparent, and we made it much better for the common person. Now, you of course know that we have a massive crackdown underway on black money, on the corrupt and wrong practices that have been followed by many people. Obviously, they should be worried. Obviously, they are going to get raided. Obviously, if they were doing the wrong thing, they're going to find themselves in a lot of trouble. That's really what's happening. Please don't be taken in by the people who have done wrong things and are now, raising a hue and cry about it. That's not fair. When they did wrong things, now they have to suffer the consequences. That is the only way we are going to have an open, transparent, honest economy. We have to do that. And of course, part of demonetization was to set up the digital trails, set up the ability to be able to go after the wrongdoers, the people who are not paying their taxes. That's really all that's happening right now.
You also want to use this opportunity, Mr. Jayant Sinha, to set a sort of agenda for growth and not just talk about the controversy surrounding this column and your reply to it. And there's been a clamor for some sort of a stimulus package. We at ET now have spent at least 5 debates talking about the need for the government to intervene, maybe in the form of a stimulus. What's your own view? Do you believe there's a case, given the slowing economy? Do you believe there's a strong case for a direct stimulus from the government? Is there a case for a fiscal stimulus?
There is a case for a stimulus, and that's called lower real interest rates. We have very high real interest rates in India. We as a government have expressed that opinion many times. We do believe rates can be much lower in India. Inflation has come down structurally a lot, and if you look around the world, real interest rates in India are really out of line. So I think that's the stimulus that we need. That will put money in the pockets of consumers. Consumption is going to go up as a result of that. Investment will be, of course, encouraged by that, because cost of capital is going to go down. That's really, I think, on the monetary side where the stimulus is going to be most effective. As far as government expenditure is concerned, we've pulled front-loaded public investment, and we will continue to do that. We are looking at ways to support the economy and infrastructure through mechanisms that are off the budget, for example, like the National Infrastructure and Investment Fund. So we've got a lot of different ways in which we are pumping fiscal stimulus into the economy, and the economy is responding. As I said, the high-frequency indicators are very positive right now. So I think a lot of the doom and gloom, a lot of what people are saying, frankly, is like driving looking at the rear view mirror. We have to look out of the windshield. When we look out of the windshield, when we look forward and we see all of the structural reforms that are underway, the kind of investments that are happening in the new industries, the industries that will power growth going forward, there's a tremendous amount to be positive about. There's a tremendous amount that we should be excited about. I'm very excited about what's happening in aviation, whether it is low-cost carriers, whether it's what's happening on the international side, the disinvestment of Air India, the drone policy that we are working on, the airports that we are building. It's extraordinary if you look at what's happening in aviation. Aviation today is already the size of the telecom industry in terms of total revenues, and we are probably going to double, triple aviation sector revenues over the next 10 or 15 years. This is a massive growth driver. Similarly, renewable energy, electric vehicles, medical equipment, health services. If you look towards the future, you look to where the innovation is happening, you look to where the capital is flowing, there's a lot when we look out of the windshield, when we look to the future, that we get excited about.
Mr. Sinha, it's very tough. You've been a debater par excellence, so it's difficult to get a headline that I'm looking out of you, and I'm not even going to make a futile attempt. But I will ask you this question. You're all right in saying that the real rate of interest in India is very high. So I have a very frank question. How much elbow room do you believe there is for rates to come down by? And the other question, sir, is that, while you've skirted the broader issue for stimulus, we've got one in 2009. People believe there is one required in 2017. How are the two macroeconomic scenarios different? 2009 versus 2017, and what is the elbow room for a rate cut?
No, 2009 I think was very misguided. It was a fiscal stimulus when deficits were already high. It was very much focused on consumption, not on investment, which drives the economy. So 2009 was disastrous, and of course politically the UPA paid the price for it. If you look at the situation right now, we have done the heavy lifting. We've done the hard work necessary to reposition the economy, to build a fundamentally strong economy poised for the 21st century. We've done that work. Again, one of the great structural reforms that we brought into play has been the Monetary Policy Committee, the inflation targeting, and that's clearly what Reserve Bank of India is charged with. And so they should take on board all of the data, and then they should of course set policies accordingly. All I can say is, based on what I can see, and I am in the aviation ministry, I'm not in the finance ministry, I can't speak on behalf of the finance ministry or naturally the RBI for that matter. Just as somebody observing where we are with respect to real interest rates relative to other countries, I think that is a very good, very effective sort of boost to the economy that we can put into play, while at the same time the government continues to what it's doing in terms of fiscal policy, which has been very responsible. We brought down deficit by 100 basis points and used our tax revenues in a very prudent and conservative manner. The reason inflation is down, the reason that we are seeing all of the financial flows coming into the country, whether it's FDI, FPI, etc., it's because we have done the right things on the macro side. I think, of course, with RBI in charge of monetary policy, they have to do what they have to do. But really, it's time, I think, also for the private sector, in light of the macroeconomic stability, in light of the structural reforms that we've undertaken, to step up and start to make the investments that will drive the economy forward. You know, that's effectively what drove the boom that we saw starting 2003, 2004, and that's hopefully what we're going to see in the next few quarters coming up.
You've still not answered my question, Mr. Sinha. I'm going to try my luck again. We've just got two last questions, which is, do you believe there's a case to trade this macroeconomic stability, which has been hard-earned, as you would say, for a growth push, which many in the economy believe? We had Dr. Rajiv Kumar on this show a few days ago, and he made a strong case for us to forget about the fiscal deficit target and, as suggested by the FRBM panel as well, make an exception because of the GST reform and maybe relax the target by 0.5%. Do you believe there's a case?
I can only offer my own personal opinion. Since I'm not in the Ministry of Finance, I can't speak you know, for the government on this particular topic. But as I've told you before, I think really if we have to boost the economy at this point, really I think it's the turn of monetary policy, not fiscal policy. That's my own personal opinion at this stage.
Right. Okay, Mr. Sinha, I'll have a last question to ask of you. And the question really is 5.7%, yes, things will revive in the second quarter. When will growth revive, and where do you see us ending for this entire financial year? I'm being as candid and as blunt with you as possible.
No, I think this financial year we should be in the upper sixes. It's very important that we did what we did with demonetization and GST. That was very important, very necessary, and we did it at exactly the right time. They always say, you know, you fix your roof when the sun is shining, and we were fixing the roof. These were important transitions that were necessary for the economy to compress black money, to compress cash in circulation, and I'll remind you that cash in circulation is down 2 percentage points of GDP. So we've gone from 17+% to 15+% in terms of cash to GDP ratio, which was of course the goal of demonetization, and we've achieved that. In addition to that, you know, GST of course was going to create its own transitional impact, which we are going through right now, but it's absolutely the right time to do it now when the economy has been strong. And the slowdown that comes when we go through such big structural changes was anticipated, it was planned for, and it was the right thing to do. Once we digest these major changes, we are going to see the economy pick up and grow. And as I said, if you look at the high frequency indicators, the leading indicators as far as economic growth are concerned are very positive right now.
We'll leave it at that, Mr. Jayant Sinha. Appreciate you taking the time and talking to us and clearing the air on the government's position. We do believe there's a lot that the government needs to do to ensure that we're on the high growth path. But yes, this gloom and doom is probably uncalled for. Thank you for joining us on the India Development Debate right here on ET Now.
Thanks very much indeed, sir.